A warm welcome to Anuradha Vedic Astrology. Today we are going to talk about planets exalted in the sixth house. But before that, a big thanks to all of you for liking, sharing, and subscribing to your YouTube and Spotify channels and writing in your comments and suggestions there. So, the sixth house talks about diseases, it talks about deaths, and it also talks about enemies and many other things. It talks about a person's working habits also. When an exalted planet sits in the sixth house, now this exalted planet, by the virtue of its exaltation, is very strong. Now, when this exalted planet comes and sits in the sixth house, it becomes very strong and very capable of giving the results of the sixth house. And what are they? Death, diseases, enemies, and also hard work, which leads to a greater glory. But when we talk about these deaths and diseases and enemies, this exalted planets will always give us these two. As far as enemies are concerned, it also gives us the ability to vanquish our enemies. But the vanquishment will only happen when we do have enemies. So we have strong enemies that one needs to vanquish. When we talk about death, so this exalted planet sitting in the sixth house can talk about the kind of debts we can have, debts towards a person, also debts that one takes from the bank or one takes from some money lenders. That is another thing that one can see in the chart. The major issue focus point today that we are going to talk about is on the disease part of it. So when there is a strong planet sitting there, that is in this case an exalted planet sitting in the sixth house, it can bring in diseases, at a lot of diseases, because the sixth house is talking about diseases in particular. But the diseases that we've seen in the eighth house were hereditary in nature. However, the diseases that come due to the sixth house are self-created, created due to bad eating habits, created due to poor working conditions or too much of workload and no what should I say, not no concentration on the self, or no understanding of what the needs and the demands of good rest, body, etc. are. So those diseases can also happen because of overindulgence. People can be very fond of eating. You will find that exalted Jupiter in the sixth house can give you a great fondness for eating, which can lead to many issues. So this is something that one needs to understand. And as we go ahead, we'll be talking about this. When we are talking about sun being exalted in the sixth house, an exalted sun in the sixth house can, being the 10th lord, gives you a very high position, can give you a governmental position, and it can put you on a very great strata. But when we talk about the disease it gives us, it can give us skin issues, it can give us an enormous amount of heat in the body, which can cause rashes for the person concerned. It can cause bilineous diseases. It can also cause weak or inflammation in the knees for a person concerned, which is very hard for one to walk, or can be very painful for a person. They could require a knee replacement surgery. There's also a possibility that the person can develop ulcers due to bad eating habits, which is a result of going hungry for hours at length when you are traveling, when you're on account of work, or when you're doing some work and you don't have any concern, any notice of the time, and you stay hungry for hours at 10, so your body gives in and says that there is a possibility of ulcer, and especially peptic ulcer kind of a thing. They could also give rise to problems of degeneration of bones at a later stage. So though it's giving you a great governmental position or a good position in some a big organization. This is one thing regarding health that you must take care of when we have exalted sun placed in the sixth house. As we move on to an exalted moon in the sixth house, people can say that it's Rasi Parivartan Yog with the eighth lord in, or Viprit Rajyog when the eighth lord is placed in the sixth house. Unfortunately, all that I've noticed is that though the Viprit Rajyog does materialize, but the fact that the eighth lord in the sixth house is very strongly capable of giving diseases cannot go unnoticed. So what you could be seeing there is that a person could be inviting hormonal issues in their lives. A sixth moon gives a very critical nature if it's afflicted. If it's not afflicted, then it can make a person a great editor, can make a person a critique, and can give a person a lot of name and fame as a manager or as a judge, etc. However, as a person is working and as a person starts climbing up the ladder of their profession, they can also face health challenges regarding hormones. So they would be under stress of work because the sixth moon does want perfection. So under the stress of work, they could be hitting on to genetic disorders. Eighth house talks about genetic disorders, and as this eighth moon is sitting, so this is applicable for Sagittarius Lagna, and as the eighth moon is sitting in the sixth house, it brings forward the genetic disorders of a person, triggering of autoimmune diseases and many other such factors for a person. In ladies, it can also bring in a lot of menstrual problems. So they really need to be careful about these things. This is also something that you can see in your D27 chart. When we talk about the exalted Mars in the sixth house, I have often found that this Mars is one of the greatest capable possible to hurt the enemy. But at what cost? At the cost of the self. Such people get angry very fast, are very focused, but when they are responsible, they don't even realize at times that they move beyond the scope of responsibility also and do things which are actually self-inflicting. And they, as a problem, as a habit, can also invite a lot of blood disorder. An exalted Mars in the sixth house can create problems, especially health issues for the self, because these people are so much driven towards doing good work that and they're good at administration, they're good at taking responsibilities in their work, so they are appreciated. But at a certain point, they forget certain boundaries. They may be crossing lines, pushing others. As a result, can be inviting a lot of heated arguments for themselves and creating a lot of problems for their own selves. Health-wise, they can have high blood pressures. They can again show a lot of problems around the thighs, and there can be inflammation of the thighs, and these people are also likely to have headaches. These people are also likely to have major issues around their navel areas, and it could also include inflammation of tissues, internal and external tissues, which will depend again on the D3 position of Mars. When we talk about Mercury being exalted in the sixth house, that's for the Aries Lagna, and it is in its own house that it gets exalted. It makes a person an ace businessman. You would hardly find people who are better businessmen or who have a better acumen of business than people with Mars in Mercury in their sixth house. So how do we work on that? This is something that you need to see, that these people can also show a lot of rashes in their hands. Skin disease is very rampant with these people. And these people will generally have these kind of skin issues when they are very irritated. So this is one thing the people should understand, that irritation is not good for them, it's in fact counter effective. At the same time, if they take proper intake of water, if they are well balanced in their approach towards their work, they will understand that the better way of utilizing this Mercury sitting in the sixth house can be done. And these people, if they do not have these penny pinching ideas, which can cause them a lot of stress or can be overwhelming for them, then the health issues will remain good for them. Otherwise, they can go in for a nervous breakdown also, especially if Rahu is transiting or aspecting this from the this house from its trines. As we talk about Jupiter in the sixth house, typically you will find that people who have an exalted Jupiter in the sixth house are very fond of eating. They love to eat all kinds of things, and they also like to drink any kind of liquid, which can also lead to a lot of water retention, which can lead to liver issues. Jaundice is very common with such people, and these people should refrain from eating street food, which can cause liver issues at the drop of the hat. These people can also accumulate a lot of fatty cells. So, they must have at least some control over the kind of food, especially the fatty food that they eat, or they will be putting on a lot of weight, which will again create them to be obese. Again, an exalted Jupiter in the sixth house can make you a great orator. Your oratory skills are much enhanced by this sixth lord. And again, your financial acumen is also good. But you are worth anything only till you have a good health. So this sixth Jupiter can also give a lot of stomach issues. You know, you can be susceptible to a lot of motions and all these things. To maintain a good diet, a good health, it's very important that you have a control over what you intake, control over what you eat. Again, the exalted Jupiter in the sixth house can cause a lot of hemoglobin related issues. Water retention, I've already told you, obesity, as I have mentioned. And finally, you need to be very careful about the soles of your feet, because they can be really paining and can show a lot of problem there also, especially if Saturn happens to aspect that area. Now, when we talk about Venus, Venus exalted in the sixth house. It is the Lagna Lord, which is placed in the sixth house, especially for the, that is, we're talking about the Libra Lagna. It's an extremely indulgent person who who has this combination, because a person would like to be spend, they would like to spend well, they would be lavish in their activities, and consequently can invite a lot of diseases home. These people will suffer from hormonal issues, because it's also the eighth lord, again like moon, posited in the sixth house, which shows so many of these problems which can be inherited. Now, all of us have a lot of problems on either side of the family, that is the parents, mother's side, as well as the father's side. But most of that can not be made dominant, cannot, we can live with it as far as possible if we take precaution about leading a moderate life, about eating good, eating moderately, and all those habits. But once we are indulgent, we do things on a regular basis which are not supposed to be done, which are not right, then in that case, we are doing nothing but inviting trouble home fast enough at an early age. So here again, for ladies, it's hormonal imbalance, which is very much seen, and that can be due to lifestyle, that can also be due to a lot of stress that people take nowadays. You will find PCOD a very common thing with such women, and you will also find a strong period which is also irregular in nature, because eighth house shows sudden change, and that lord sitting in the sixth house of problems can show sudden irregularities without a without prior intimation. So all these things you can see. Now let us move into Saturn. If Saturn is exalted in the sixth house, it means a person is a workaholic, bent on doing a lot of service, because it's also the ninth and 10th lord. You always want to do the right thing by others. You always want to give service to others to the best that you can. And as a result, you ignore your own self, and you can cause a lot of problems for your bones. You would also see these people could go in for hip joint replacements, or can have a weakened hip. These people can also have problems with their spine, because sitting for long hours at one place can compress your spine and can cause all these problems. If I know that these are the problems I'm likely to have, should I not be taking precautions? That's the major thing that we can do. This is one free will that we have in the sixth house as opposed to the eighth house, where things are more determined. The sixth house gives us the flexibility of knowing that yes, there is a possible problem coming our way. So we must groom ourselves in a manner that we do not bring these problems head on. So this is what we see when we have these 7 planets from Sun to Saturn exalted in the sixth house. Do let us know how you found this video and write in your comments and your suggestions. Till we meet with you again, stay safe. Thank you.
Please hit the bell icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.